I'm Debbie Schwartz, if you guys don't know, and I manage the Paying for College 101 Facebook group. I also have a website called Road to College. I've been doing this for about 3 years. I am a parent just like you. I have 3 kids, one just graduated college. I have one who's a sophomore in college, and I have a 10th grader in high school. So I've been going through this process for a while now, and I felt that parents really didn't have enough good information, and I loved connecting with parents, bringing everybody together, sharing information, and that's how I started the Facebook group. And I've met a ton of really interesting people along the way, both parents and professionals, people like Pam, and I love bringing, people with great insights and knowledge to meet other people and to have them share their information to people in the group. And so that's what we're doing tonight. And Pam, I actually had known from a distance. I had read a lot of her stuff, and we coincidentally are in a community of what they call finance bloggers, and we met at a conference this past September, and just love Pam's approach, and I really just wanted to introduce her to everybody here and you to her, so you can see what she's doing and hopefully learn from what she's doing and help your students with private scholarships.
Sounds good. All right, let me just share my screen. Can everyone see it?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes. And I'll manage or monitor the chat. If anybody wants to ask a question, put it in the chat. But also feel free to unmute yourself if you want to.
Okay. Now I can't see anyone. Are you still able to see people, Deb? I can't see anything.
Yes, I can see it. Yes. So if I need to get in touch with you, Pam, I'll step in. Yeah.
All right. Sounds good. So, all right, so I'm Pam Andrews, and I'm going to talk to you just briefly tonight about the private scholarship side. I do apologize. With this weather, I'm in the Northeast as well. It's just been kind of a lingering throat thing, but I just had some hot tea, so I think I'm going to be able to get through this. So hopefully everyone can hear me and can understand me. Can you guys see me at all? Can anyone see me?
Yes.
Oh, you can? I'll make sure I won't do anything weird then, like.
Yes, we can see you.
Oh, you can? See, I can't see anything. I am so glad I asked, because I start fidgeting and doing all kinds of crazy.
Yeah, so Pam, your little thumbnail still stays up,
Oh, okay.
but we can see your presentation too.
Perfect. Okay, because I can't see anybody. All right. So I'm going to talk a little bit about finding and winning scholarships. So I want you to know that you are in the right place if you have a student who will be going to college in the fall. And this also works for students who are currently in college. What I'm going to share, I don't recommend for students younger than the class of 2019. And I'll share a little bit more about that, why, because I get very focused for students who are somewhat at the finish line in terms of high school or have crossed over and are into college, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. So if you have a student who will be going to college in the fall, or you currently have a college student, you want a proven method for finding and winning private scholarships, and that's what we're going to talk about tonight, private scholarships. And you have a son or daughter who is willing to do the work. And I think this is very critical, because if they're not willing to do the work, they're not going to get the results. This can't be mom doing it. It can't be dad doing it. It has to be the young person who has skin in the game, who is willing to do the work. So if they're willing to do the work, then you're in the right place, and the information that I share is exactly for your family. So let me just tell you a little bit about me. My name is Pam Andrews. My company is the Scholarship Shark. Our parent company is actually Strategic College Coaching. I'm an independent college consultant, so I'm an IEC. I don't know if any of you have heard that term before, but I work one-on-one with families with the entire college admissions process, starting in the 10th grade. Ideally, sometimes we get them in the 11th, sometimes we get them in the 12th, but we love the 10th grade because we've got time on our side to really build that standout, sought-after applicant, and to help young people focus in on who they are, how are they uniquely made, what's the best path forward, what's the ideal learning community. So we have time to really work through all those steps. So that's really where I'm coming from. I'm coming as an independent educational consultant, so kind of a big picture overview. I actually got into this many years ago. Before I met my husband. We're about to celebrate our 25th wedding anniversary the end of this summer, so it'll be 25 years. But before we met, like right before we met and started dating, I was working for a company, a lender, private lender. I was the director of the quality department. I directed the entire startup. And so this was for graduate loans. Where I live in Delaware, Delaware is the big banking,
Yes.
lending area. It's huge for that. And so I worked for a company on private loan side, and we were the loan originator. So I was responsible for default rates, student profile, that all fell under my umbrella. And in terms of taking a look at what the ideal student candidate is, and it started with law school loans, and then we got into medical school, and then business school. So it's just on the graduate side. So I worked with graduate financial aid offices, and also worked with graduate admissions offices. We worked together. So I got to see this whole industry from that perspective. But at the same time, my husband and I actually met in youth ministry. He was a youth pastor at the time. And I thought, oh, he's kind of cute and all that. And long story short, we got together, and 25 years later, plus a few years of dating, we worked together. But as youth pastors in our area, because I understood just the benefit and the value of a college education, and I understood the process, I began working with the young people in our church and our community. And now they're like in their 30s, their early 30s. I'm really telling my age, but many of them went on to do some really incredible things. I worked a lot with student athletes. I have a couple of former NFL players, and they'll tell you NFL stands not for long, because you really don't stay in it long. So you have to use college as a way to set you up to get a degree, not that big football dream. Teachers, nurses, just some young people who I had the opportunity to work with over 2 decades ago with this entire process. So that's why when I came into it years later, after having a couple kids and got back into the industry, right when my son was probably in his sophomore year, I knew exactly what to do with him. And I told him, if you will work with me, I know exactly what to do to help you get to where you wanted to get to. Now, I'm his mother, so he didn't have a choice but to work with me. That's kind of how it works in our household. So you're going to either work with me with joy, or you're going to work with me kicking and screaming. But at the end of the day, you're going to do what I say do. And it all worked out. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. So I have the Scholarship Shark podcast, and that's the little thing in the middle. I'm a podcaster. I love podcasting, and tons of great resources there. I've written a couple of books. My biggest book is Scholarship Search Secrets, and that's for the student. Then I have up in my up right corner, the Scholarship Shark Activity Journal, which is, I use that with my younger students, and younger meaning 9th, 10th, and 11th, because it's aligned to what I call the big money scholarship, so that they can begin to build their profile all throughout high school. So that's one of the tools we use. And then I have the board game, In Pursuit of College board game, which is for middle school and early high school students. So I have that, but I speak a lot. But what I really love, and that's one of the pictures in the bottom, is my one-on-one work with students, coaching them through the process. So that's a little bit about what I do. So I'm a mom of 4. I'm also, just like Deb, this is my community as well. I'm a mom. I get it. I'm right where you are. I've got one in college. My next one's a junior on her way. Then I have a sophomore in high school. And then I have an 8-year-old. So I've got a long way to go. And so I know what it feels like to be in the midst of this process and have all the emotions and the decisions, and knowing that the one decision is not in isolation, that it impacts the entire household. And so because of that, it's important that families understand, and that the young people understand that this is not something that's done in isolation. You're where you go, how it's financed, that whole thing. This is a family process. So with that in mind, this is my oldest. That was his junior year of high school. And those are my 3. That's been almost 4, actually it has been 4 years now, because he's a junior in college. But that's when we visited the one school where he is now. And I knew then that, you know, this was really where he belonged, where he wanted to be in this school, which is Ringling College of Art and Design. He's majoring in illustration. But he knew this was where he wanted to go. And so we knew what the cost of attendance was, but I walked him through what the steps forward would be in his senior year and what he needed to do in order to make it happen. So long story short, and I won't focus on the institutional aid. I'll briefly talk about that in just a second. I'm just going to focus on private scholarships. So he applied to 147 private scholarships his senior year of high school. That was on top of everything. He was dual enrolled, very active in his community with his superhero project. It's a mentoring program for young boys, middle school boys. I mean, just really involved, had won a couple of awards for his project that he worked on. So, but in addition to all that he had going on in high school, scholarships were non-negotiable. And so we started off very early in August, applying. So a little bit of what I'm going to share is what we did in terms of just putting all the systems in place and making it happen, and just really putting your head down and just working right through it, and not stopping until you cross the finish line. So he applied for 147. Of those, he won 6 private scholarships. And I think this is really important because it's important for students and parents. I don't know how many students we have on the call, how many are parents, how many are students, but I think it's really important for students to understand that this is a long game. You've got to be in it for the long haul. And as a result, our strategy really was 1 year at a time. And I said, this is what the cost of attendance is for 1 year. And we even broke it down by semester. I said, this is what's due July 15th. This is what's due December 15th. So July 15th for the first semester, December 15th for the second. And I said, if we just take this big thing and break it down, and you just do what you need to do and continue to do it, and you treat it like an activity, like this is just what you're going to build into your week in school, and I'm still here to support you, that you can actually do it. So he won 6 as a result. What I'm going to share, so that's a little bit of Daryl. As a result, he won over $700,000 in scholarships, but that's a combination of what I call layer 1. I'm going to talk about that in a second, which is the institutional aid, and then the private money, which goes wherever you go. But I've also been able to work with other students. So these are just some of the private scholarships that Grace won, in addition to what I call layer 1, which is that institutional aid, as well as Quan. He won, same thing, the institutional aid with private scholarships. But it's important to understand my method, my strategy, which was 1 year at a time, and the layering technique. So let me explain the layering technique. If you think of a cake, excuse me, and you think of 2 layers to the cake, or maybe a layer in the icing on the cake. So layer 1 is the institutional aid. And I think this is really important because there can't be an either or so if you're in your senior year, maybe you've thought about it, maybe you haven't. Chances are, if you're in the group and you post a lot, read a lot, you most likely have put some thought into building a very smart college list. But I like to share this because, if you've got younger kids, if you have nieces and nephews, neighbors, friends, it's important that people come into this understanding that starting with that first layer, really building a smart college list, is vital. Now, I'll say this with my son, I'll briefly say this, I won't stay on this long. And even though he had his dream school, which was in Florida, and we knew they weren't very generous, we did have a backup plan, which was close, in Philadelphia, University of the Arts. And they awarded him a lot of money, very generous scholarship. He won $76,000, so it covered all the tuition. So we had a backup plan. We said, if things don't work out, this is where you'll go. Worst case scenario, you'll stay at home. You'll either take the train in and commute, or we'll get you a car and you'll drive in. But this will be your plan. And I say this to say, and this is where it gets tough, but I'm a mom, so I get it. It's really building in our kids, not, having those conversations, but not having that expectation that, oh, I deserve to go here, or I ought to go here. Well, you'll go if it works out. And every household is different, but I'm just telling you how it works in our household. So in our household, we told him, this is where we would love for you to go. Yes, this is your dream school, but I define dream in such a different way. And so it has to work. So in terms of that layer one, which is the private money, that's the money that's institution specific. You can only be used at that school. So it's important to go into this getting the most you can out of the school, building that SMART list, knowing your numbers. You know, if it's a school that's heavy on your SAT, for art school, it relies a lot on the portfolio. So we knew what the strength of his portfolio had to be. He applied to 8 colleges and universities. I did have him apply to 2 non-art schools. So he applied for, excuse me, colleges of art within universities where I knew he could get a lot of money. But everywhere he applied awarded him merit aid based on the strength of his portfolio. And so, but then what we did from there, we mapped it out and we looked at, okay, so this is what you won, layer one. And I hope that makes sense. I hope like people are nodding and I just can't see. But then layer two is the private money. And that's what I'm going to talk about. So I have to kind of lay that foundation so people understand it's not just applying for private and hoping for a big windfall. It's ideally, if you've got time on your side and you're on the front end of this, for those of you with younger kids, go into it with that mindset. That's so critical. Like I cannot stress it enough as a parent, as a professional, like it's super critical.
Pam, I hope you don't mind if I can interrupt for 1 second.
Yes, ma'am.
What you said is exactly, I mean, my philosophy, but it's also actually, if people know me, from being in the group, I have actually not brought anybody, to present to the group that talks about private scholarships, because until I met Pam, I didn't find anybody that had a similar philosophy. Mm-hmm. I think that there are a lot of people out there that say, we'll help you with private scholarships, but they don't really put it in the context that Pam just did. That private scholarships are one piece of this puzzle, but you better have done the other pieces first or along the way. Anyhow, I just wanted to kind of emphasize that, because I think that that's, hopefully for all the people here who say they have seniors, they have done that piece of it. We're crossing our fingers. For the people who have kids in 11th grade or younger, we can talk about that. That's separate, but at least I think that the philosophy is so important. So.
It is. I agree. We want the icing on the cake, but we don't have the cake. We have to have the cake. It's like, you can't just eat icing. Come on. You need the cake. So I think that's important. So I just lay that little bit of groundwork as a framework so families understand. With that said, though, when it comes to layer two, so here's another mindset piece. Don't be afraid to apply for, if you're eligible, large, small. Sometimes you hear people say, oh, nobody wins the big ones. Yes, they do. I know people, I work with students who win the big ones. I've got Coca-Cola, Ron Brown, Burger King, all the big money scholarship, winners. Somebody's going to win. And I tell my students, somebody's got to win. It might as well be you. And this is what you need to do. But then don't poo-poo on the small ones either. Like, oh, it's only 500. Like, really? I mean, there's no such thing as only whatever. So if you're eligible, you apply. So I think it's important, when you go into it and you say, you know what, I can do this one. I can present well on this one. I'm going to go for it. So I think that's kind of the mindset for the layer two, if that makes sense. So layer one and then layer two. Okay. So I went through that. So layer one is the institutional aid, and it's really building that, which is really important. And then layer two are the private scholarships, and they go with you no matter where you go, no matter what school you go to. Okay. So one thing I want to say, I'm sorry, my voice. So what I do with the layer two, I've identified 11 very specific search locations, and so the minute I start working with my students in the 10th grade, they're starting to apply for scholarships. And there are many different locations to search. Now, I won't, let me go back. I won't, I guess I can't, there we go. So I won't, I'm just gonna share, so I'm gonna briefly share, but one is, of course, websites. And so there are plenty of scholarship directories where there are, you can search, you can set up a profile. Most people know many of them. you know, your students may already be logged in and you're getting the messages on your phone or in your email with a lot of them. But I share this to say, actually building, for me anyway, like, and my students, building the list of legitimate scholarships, the massive list, is not the issue. The issue really comes in being accountable with everything else that's on their plate. So what I find, a lot of times parents will think, you know, my student, so they're kind of two camps. There's there's the student who just is stuck, can't move forward, doesn't know what to do. They're easy to move along. But then there's the high achieving, overcommitted, swamped student who just has so much going on. And actually for both of them, what I find what really makes the difference is the accountability piece. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit towards the end. So I say this to say that having places to search, there are so many very specific places, and one are just website directories. So honing in on website directories, you know, setting up your profile. I always tell students, have a separate email, because you know, for a couple reasons. Number one, you're going to get a lot of emails coming in, and you don't want that getting lost with, hey, what are you doing Friday night? Are you going to the dance? You going to the game? Let's meet up. You know, and then I always tell them, as you're building your team, which should include your mom or your dad or, you know, some support person, you don't want them in all your business. So, and we don't want to see it, because I make my students give me their login too. I'm like, let me see it, because I don't want to know your, you know, what's going on. I really don't. I don't want to see your notifications. I don't want all that. I just need to know, like, okay, what's going on here. And so I love that. And I always tell students, get a, I love the whole Google suite. So get a Gmail. It's free, it's easy. And we talk about that in terms of setting up one of the systems, one of the pieces of the system. So your Gmail, that's just for scholarships. And I tell them why, because for a lot of the scholarship judges, that's the first impression they're going to get. And so you want a nice, clean, collegiate sounding email address. Like, I can't stress that enough. I look at some of their emails, I'm like, whoa, we're going to clean that up right now. So, you know, something super simple, but again, so that you're getting notices and you're getting, you're able to share it with your team, whoever's supporting you. Now, I will say this too. There are times when scholarships will notify you via email. We actually had that happen once with one of my son's scholarships. And it's really nice to be able to know, like, this is what you go in here specifically just looking for that, because some of them will move on. If you don't respond in, you know, whatever they say, so many days, they will move on to the next person. So it's important to have that one piece of your system set up where you're able to get in, get what you need, and get out and to share it. Hopefully that makes sense. So this is just, you know, there are so many website directories, and I share this just to let you know, again, there's so much information out there. To me, the information is not the problem. Again, it's the accountability, it's the staying on track, it's, you know, knowing how to write a strong essay. Those are the things that, or strong submission, because some are video, some are photography, some are visual. So having a very strong submission is what's critical. And
Pam,
then,
I'm just going to interrupt 1 minute. I'm not sure. I'm just going to do a shout out to Teresa. Do you have a question? Because you've raised your hand. So I just want to make sure that we're not, you know, going by without giving you the chance. And if you don't, that's okay. We'll just go on. But feel free to either type it in the chat or unmute yourself and just interrupt. Okay, Pam, continue.
oh, okay. Oops, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have stopped. So was there a question or no?
She raised, no question.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions right now before I go on?
Nope, I think we're okay.
All right. I'm keeping moving. All right. So, I love people. So, yeah. I'm very relational. I'm not going for that. It froze
Oh, Pam, we see your screen, but you're going in and out a little bit.
Oh, okay. Can you hear me now?
Now it's good. Yes, go ahead.
Okay, perfect. And I won't go in and out. I'll just wait to hear from you, and then because I was going to go look because I didn't know, but yeah, I'll stay put here. So yeah, okay. So what I find the big part is accountability, and again, I shared why, because students are either overwhelmed because they don't know the next steps, and it just can feel very overwhelming, or they've got a lot on their plate senior year, and especially trying to squeeze in all that last minute fun with friends, and there's forget AP exams and maintaining grades and fighting senioritis, all that stuff. So it's important for them to have someone they're accountable to, whether it's you, whether it's someone else. But that's key in order to make this process work. And I can't stress that enough, because this is not an information thing. If this were information, you could just buy the book, buy my book, buy somebody else's book, and boom. And there are some people who can do that, and it works really well. But I want you to know that you need to have, whether it's a good friend, whether it's their mentor, there needs to be someone in their life who's going to hold their feet to the fire. And as a mom, I'm just going to be real honest. We actually have this. My oldest has a career coach that my husband had, a good friend of his who does private coaching and sets people up with their LinkedIn profiles and all this other stuff. But we hired him to work with our son, even though there's career services and other things, because he has very specific goals. He needed one-on-one support. So, and I'm not even my own daughter, my 16-year-old daughter's college coach. She's working with one of my employees in the college process. So she's working through my framework, but I don't work with her because I want to enjoy this last year and a half. I'm like, girl, we just keep bumping heads. We're too much alike. So anyway, so I just share that because I know what it's like to know that they need help. And she's a super duper young lady. She really is. But I know she needs someone to keep her on track, because can just be all over the place in terms of what she wants to do and, excuses. And I'm like, that ACT's coming up, and I get to be the nice guy. Somebody else gets to be the one that says, okay, Sophia, let me see your study plan, your strategy. What are you doing? And I just sit back. I'm like, this is so nice. So anyway, so the accountability is key.
So Pam, there is one quick question.
Yes.
This is going back to your question about your comment about having a separate email, maybe particularly Gmail. And somebody asked, should that Gmail address be separate or the same from the Gmail or the email address that students might use for their college applications?
So I like to have one for the whole college process, long as it's not the one that you're using for school or other personal
For high
stuff.
school.
Yeah, right. For high school. But if it's like your college one, that's perfectly okay. If you've used it already for your applications, go right ahead and use that same one. They need to make sure they're okay with, which they should be, with sharing it, with someone to log in and be an extra pair of eyes. But yeah, that's fine. You don't have to create now like a scholarship one. It's sort of a college one is great. But if they've never set one up just for this process, by all means, set it up. That was a great question.
Yeah, that was good too.
Any more questions?
Not right now.
Okay, cool. All right. So, so this was just one little meeting. This was actually last year, with just a few of these were class of 2018 folks. So they're all freshmen in school. But I share this because a lot of the work that I do is one-on-one with students. This happened to be a group. Every now and then we do stuff in group. We do it one-on-one. But again, I just can't stress accountability as key. And I think I must have cracked the joke, and then I took the picture real fast because nobody's always smiling at one time because I'm like on top of them. I don't think they knew I took that picture either. So anyway, and then sometimes I'll do work in classroom settings as well. So that was that. Let me just go over just a few quick things. One thing I really like to share is that you can search all year long for scholarships. I particularly love the summer months and December, especially for college students. There are so many scholarships in the month of December, and you've got that break. I always tell my students, I'm gonna give you 3 days to come home and rest. But after that third day, I said, listen, Jesus got up on the third day, so can you. So I know you're probably really tired, but you got 3 days to rest and regroup, you know, get yourself together, and you're gonna get up and, you know, you're gonna get on top of it. And because I will be texting you, blowing your phone up. So, so take advantage of those times when you have natural breaks to do what everybody else is not doing. Most students are, especially like college, they're just transitioning. They got out of that one semester, they're thinking about the next one, kind of taking it easy. If you're in your senior year, maybe you're finishing your applications if you haven't gotten them in, if you didn't hit some of those early deadlines and like maybe November or that December 1 or whatever. But I say this to say that for students who are in their senior year or currently in college, take advantage of your December and take advantage of doing this all year long. Like, I cannot stress that mindset enough. Another thing, there are scholarships for students, and this is really good more for high school, of all grades, all ages, even current college students. There are so many scholarships available. So, and I say that as a way of encouragement that there's money available out there, and there's a good fit for you. And so the key is just to find it, to build your list, and to work through it. There are many types of scholarships. Not all are academic or require high SAT and ACT scores. And I want to say this about my son, because he is an artist, and I'm not throwing him under the bus. But, you know, if his scholarships required a high SAT or a high ACT, he would have like goose egg, because what he applied for, and I say this a lot, especially if you've got younger kids, and younger meaning like, you know, the 9th or the 10th, 11th, going into that senior year, there are lots and lots of scholarships, and you'll find this in college as well, for service and for leadership. And this is just kind of core to who we are as a family. We're big on serving. Our family loves to serve. And I raise kids, my students, to be either community leaders or global leaders. That's kind of what we do in our household. And so, so I say that to say, don't feel discouraged if you think, well, my kid doesn't have like the perfect SAT or the perfect GPA. Well, you know, if you've got time on your side and it's genuine, having them explore something they're genuinely interested in, some kind of issue, some kind of cause, a movement, something that really, and I'm not going to go deep into this because I put a lot of time into this, can pay off. And so all of my son's scholarships were for leadership. And it was around a project that, like I said, he created called the Superhero Project, where he combined his love of art and mentoring young boys. And he put that together and created a phenomenal program that impacted many lives. And as a result of that, he won a lot of scholarships because he had something to talk about on the essays. Apply for big and small scholarships. Never let the dollar amount keep you from applying. I said that a little bit earlier. It's so important. And these are just a few of my tips that you apply. A lot of times, especially some of the smaller ones and some of the local and regional ones, because a lot of times they've got they have smaller applicant pools. And so again, if you're eligible, this is just what you're going to do. And once you get the system in place, it's not as difficult. I know 147 sounds like, oh my goodness, how do you get your son? That's probably the big question I get. How do you get your son to write 147? I said, I didn't. You know, there are some that fall in certain clusters, and you use the essays over and over. So, so never let the dollar amount stop you from applying. And most scholarships will be for 1 year, but if you're able to reapply, then do so. And what I mean by that, when it comes to the private scholarships, if sometimes they'll say like, you know, 16 through college, or maybe high school, senior, college, or whatever. If you're able to apply, excuse me, again, apply, you know, if you didn't win. And then in their cases, sometimes you may be able to, it's rare, apply again for the same scholarship. That I have seen that a couple times, but it's very rare. But I don't want you to think like, oh, I didn't get this one. You know, you'll keep it on your tracker, and then you'll go back through and you'll loop back around and do it. So hopefully that makes sense.
So Pam, there is a question. The question is, what are the best websites to quickly search for scholarships? Seems like they are scams, and once you sign up, you get a lot of spam.
Right. Okay. So, excuse me. I'll give you the three that, well, actually four that I like. So, I'll give you. I'll reverse it. I actually like Sally Mae. So everybody knows Sally Mae is the lender, but Sally Mae has a website, a portal with scholarships. So if you go to sallymae.com, because it's like this really long name, I don't know off the top of my head. I have the link in the book somewhere. And just where you have the little magnifying glass, just look for scholarships and that'll pop up. So you have Sally Mae. I like FastWeb. My son won a couple of fastweb.com. So I've heard some people say, oh, it's just something. Well, you know, that's fine if you don't want to, but I make my students apply. I actually have a student right now who's in the second round of a very competitive scholarship that we found on FastWeb. So fastweb.com, Good Call, GOODCALL.com is another one. And I like scholarships.com, and scholarships with an S. That's another one. But this is why having a separate email is important, because right now the email that, you know, my son set up 4 years ago, we don't look at it. It's not clogging my inbox. It's not clogging his personal inbox. We don't even think about it. We don't even need it anymore. And my daughter has a new one, a separate one. So you want to set that, because then when you don't want to think about it, you don't have to unsubscribe to stuff, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Hopefully that makes
Pam, somebody's asking, I don't know if you're familiar with this website called collegegreenlights.com.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah, I like them too. They were on my list of 100. There are a lot of, so those are directories. So there are, excuse me, tons of them. Some by ethnicity for Native American students, Black students, some by location. There are tons of them. That's another great one that has a lot of more of the national scholarships. Any other questions?
Nope. You covered them.
Okay, cool. All right. So this is just my process model, and this is what we use in-house, part of our framework, working students through. And the reason why I like to show this, because a lot of times we just see something, you don't understand behind the scenes. So with the scholarship chart, you know, like if you were on a boat and you see for all you kids what's above the surface, but there's also something bigger below the surface that you really can't see. And the big piece is mindset. And they're just different components that I've discovered. Number one, in a winner, I love my student winners, and I love breaking apart, like taking apart. My undergraduate degree is in engineering, electrical engineering. So I'm an engineer by design. I will take something apart, I will reverse engineer something, rebuild it. And understanding the mindset of a winner and what it takes to win is so critical to the process, because it takes this in order to continue to do it over and over. So, and even handling disappointment, you know, for like I said, it's 147 applied, and that's 141 rejections, you know, so having the stamina to continue to do it over. Then the process, and that's what we do, that gets done over and over again. Again, all this is what people really can't see, because all you see is the outcome. Now, what's above are the skills. And what I love about the skills, when you learn how to search and how to apply, these skills are transferable. So right now, my son is applying for internships. He had an awesome experience semester as a student, but he's applying for a summer internship. And what's really nice is because he learned these skills, search, and to stand out as a scholarship applicant, the same skill set is transferable as an internship candidate, and it's going to be even more transferable as a job applicant. And what I love about skills, I teach students the skills. So I tell them, you're standing on my shoulders because I want you to go further, faster. You know, I want you to do what I'm not doing. So I love teaching it. A lot of times people say, oh, you're going to find scholarship I can't. I'm like, nope, I'm going to teach them how to do it. And you want me to teach them how to do it. So what we do is we teach you the skills. But what I think is really important, you know, as a mom, anytime we can get like a bigger bang for something, it's always really good. So like, you know, you do one thing, but it has like multiple benefits. It's like, I like this. And then now those are at the tip of the iceberg. And I share that a lot of times people ask me, so what scholarships did he apply to? Which ones did he win? And they're just focused, little itty bitty piece. And I can tell you that, but is it a right fit for you? Is this, you know, going to highlight your strengths? Is this something that's going to get your student excited? So a lot of times we focus on that little itty bitty part where there's so much more beneath the surface and so much more going on that people don't quite understand. So hopefully that makes sense. Any nods?
Yep, no, that makes complete sense. I actually love the analogy, and until you said it, it makes complete sense, of the process of looking for scholarships is really the same, similar process when they're going to have to get an internship and a job.
Yeah.
Especially the way, employment is these days, and it's all a numbers game, and it's all, the search sites for, jobs. That's the way it is.
It is. It really is the way it is, which is why I have to say this. I will get off I'm going to take a little detour, but I'm going to get back on track, which is why I tell families a lot of times, and this is the IEC hat I wear, a lot of times they think they have to go to a certain school in order to get a certain outcome. Well, not necessarily. It's what you do with what you have that makes all the difference. So of course, you may pick a school for a certain experience or, a particular fit or, things like that. But the data actually shows that, there are students who go to maybe not some of the, schools that folks may think of and do just as well. So I think that's so important as well. It's the skills that you acquire and what you do with what you acquire that makes all the difference. So, yep. So, I'm sorry. So what am I to share as I wrap up and answer any other questions? I am offering, this is a time of year where I offer a scholarship bootcamp. And it really came about because often I get asked, and it really happens like this time of the year, okay, so my daughter got into school, but we haven't really thought about how we're going to pay for it all. Or she still has this gap. She got this much from the school. We have this gap. Can you help us? Well, I have this very finite resource called time because, I'm raising my kids. I'm working with my clients, my one-on-one clients. And so what I've had to do was I launched it last year, the Scholarship Bootcamp. And I don't just kind of have it out there all year round. I find that the biggest need is this time of the year where students need to understand how to find, how to stand out, and how to write, the essays a whole bit for private scholarships. So, and that's what I wanted to share with you. I'm launching another boot camp that actually starts next week. Well, it starts Saturday. We have two groups, one on Saturday and then one on Monday night. Yeah, next Monday night, a week from tonight, for your student. It is designed for the students. The parents are more than welcome to participate, to sit, to listen. But I like working with students. You really want your student to learn the process because they're not going to be with us forever. So when my son's on campus and he hears about this great opportunity at Career Services, it just clicks and he knows what to do. So it's so important that we're having our students learn these skills to set them up for success. Hopefully my voice doesn't go out in the next second. So in this, how to search for national, regional, and local scholarships. And they do this right off the bat. Again, the accountability is key. Because what I love about doing this with groups is at the end, we have students commit to what they're going to work on in a week. And then when they show up the next week, or I'm looking at what they've done or haven't done, you step up your game when you know that, little Johnny has said he was going to do 5 and he actually did 7. And little Jane, said she was going to do 7 and she did 2. Then she comes back and she's like, you know what, let me step it up a bit. So it's something of that group that just really fires everybody up to get the job done. And again, the reason why I offer it in a live format is because we're not short on content or information. The big part is the accountability. And as a mom, I understand, I'm always telling my kids, did you do the dishes? Did you wash your clothes? My son's home from college. Did you fill up the tank of gas? It's just constantly reminding them to do what they need to do. And so that accountability is what's key. So it's teaching them how to search. I license multiple databases, and we curate all that into a database that I share with my private one-on-one clients, and then we do the boot camp. So they have access to our licensed scholarship database, which pulls from many sources that we pay for and license a lot of scholarships. And they're organized by month so that they know they're working on that next thing. So in addition to other things, they know like, okay, this is coming up in February. This is coming up in March. This is what I should be doing in July. So we have that. Then they're also learning how to think like a judge, teaching them really how to strategically think, to work through the application. And I share a few hacks with them to help them really understand if their application is judge worthy, if it's something that they need to submit. They learn how to craft winning scholarship essays. I teach them how to cluster the essays so that they're getting the most for their time, because they also have limited time. They don't have a lot of time. You know, we all have the same amount of time in our days and the same amount of time in our weeks. So it's helping them to get organized so that they're able to make the most of their time in this process. It also includes the scholarship tracker, worksheets. I have essay templates, which helps them write very specific types of essays quickly. And then we have a private discussion group. The private discussion group on Facebook, it's in Slack. I don't know if you're familiar with Slack, but we have a Slack channel. And I put it there because as a mom, I don't like kids being distracted, so I try to minimize distractions. So I find that that group works well in terms of us communicating, in terms of me sharing additional scholarships as I get them, in terms of me tagging students as I get to know what their interests, their pursuits, their majors, where they're going, all of that. So that works well. And then as a bonus, you get group access until you graduate. So I'm still loading scholarships in. I'm still texting my current private clients, like, hey, I found this. I think this might be a good one for you. So they're still able to stay in there, still able to get support until they graduate. Because again, I want them to have success. Like more than anything, I really want them to have success. So any questions on that? I feel like voice is like.
There is a question. Is the boot camp only for seniors?
No, so it's seniors and for college students. I don't want juniors. I mean, if a junior could do it, but there's a little bit more that junior do that at this point seniors can't do. Does that make sense? Are they saying yes or no?
Actually, say that again about the juniors versus seniors.
Yes. Yes. So it's for your graduating seniors, so your class of 2019, for current college students, because I'm showing them some specific things that they can do. A junior could do it. So I run my sophomores and juniors through this, but they do a little bit more because there's more you can do because you have time on your side. Now, a junior can get value out of it, if that makes sense, and a sophomore can gain value out of it. But I am speaking specifically to seniors and to college students because they are like, especially seniors, they're like at the finish line. And so they're going to work a little bit harder and they're a little bit more committed to the process. So it's ideal for the class of 2019 and your current college students.
So Pam, I have a question. In terms of scholarship essays, especially as you said, you're kind of targeting high school seniors, can they use essays that they've written for their college applications?
Absolutely. Either one of the questions asked about your major, what are your future plans? Some of those you can use. Just a matter of coming close to word requirements. I mean, you need to read the prompt and make sure you're answering the essay, but absolutely, because your story is your story. Your story doesn't change. Your obstacles, what you've had to overcome, your successes, your failures, your setbacks, that's your story. And so that doesn't change. So you can absolutely use some of that again.
Somebody asked, and maybe we can email it out. They wanted to know if you could show the slide that you had with the list of the scholarship search sites. If you want to go back, or we could also email it out.
Yeah, I can go back. Because now
Oh, Pam, are you there?
Oh, I think here, I was trying to go, but I think I messed up.
Okay, I think it'll be easier. I'll send it out to everybody.
Alrighty. Okay. I'm sorry. I may unshare and then, so I've done that. Last thing I was just, it has the, now I'm on this like slide loop here and my thing is spiraling. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Can you see anything?
We're just, you're on the slide that has the tools, skills, process, mindset.
Okay. Can you see the bar up top or is it just that slide?
We see some slides on top.
Top. Okay. I can't figure out how to get out. Okay. I'm just gonna keep going.
And you know
I
what,
think I'm
Pam? Somebody's asking, and you know, we didn't talk about this before. If they could get, if we can send out the your presentation as well.
Yeah, I don't mind. I'm gonna blur this. Well, yeah. My kids are fine. They're all over 18 now. Yeah. I am so sorry. I'm like stuck here. So the only, this is, I don't know what I hit. If I knew what I hit, I could figure it out. But and I'm in Keynote, so I don't know if anybody can provide that. You can see my thing. Okay. So the second to the last slide. So the next slide has the link with the scholarshipshark.com/bootcamp. And I want to make sure that your people know, and I feel like my voice is going to go, that if they register, they need to use the code PFC 101 for paying for college. So just the letters 101 to get the discount as being a member of this group.
Yep. And absolutely. And Pam, I actually emailed that out already to some people, and I will continue. I will email it out after this.
Okay. And two cool slides at the end. Okay. The other thing I put just a fast acting bonus. I'm going to do a 30-minute call with the first only five, who register from this group. I pulled up my other slide. Who registered from this group for the course. So if you're one of the first five, then it's a call with your student that helps us get to know them a little bit better so that we can target even more specifically. And in that 30 minutes, we can look at their current award letter. We can talk a little bit about what they've done, some specific next steps. So it's to dive a little bit deeper. I love my success stories, and I want to provide just a little bit more in-depth content to just only five, because that's all we have like the capacity for. Again, the course is $4.99. It's going to be $3.99 as long as you use the code PFC 101. That ends Friday because our first class starts either Saturday. So there's a Saturday track and a Monday track. And that's it. I wish I knew how to get out of this because I can't see anybody.
Well, I think you can stop sharing your screen.
I can't figure it out. I'm telling you, I'm looking for my little green thing. It's just, I thought I shut my whole computer, but I don't want to do that just yet.
Yeah. Does anybody have any questions? I'm just going to give you my interpretation, and I think that we, meaning the collective we, families, students, even the media, think that like private scholarships are just kind of this easy thing, or it's this pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. I think it's doable, but I want to emphasize, you know, what Pam has kind of shown, that it's going to take work, and that's okay. And because it takes work, that you need to be dedicated to it, and you need to have a system about how you're going to go about doing it. So you're not just going to like throw a few of them out there, but it's probably going to have to be like the numbers Pam showed her, you know, that's the reality. You know, her son applied to 147, he got 6. They were good, 6 good ones. you're not going to apply to 5 and expect to even win 1. You might, the numbers I have honestly seen is that you probably have to apply to between 10 and 15, and of those 10 to 15, you end up winning 1. And that's okay. Again, if you kind of have everything together, you have your essays done, you know how to present yourself, based on what the scholarship is asking, and then you can just kind of like pump them out, and if you can pump out a lot, then your odds are higher. I mean, actually, the odds are the same, but your results are better because you're just going to get, you'll be able to apply to more scholarships and then therefore have, more wins. So I just think that what Pam is presenting is very realistic. It's, got to take a little bit of work, but it's doable. And the good thing about seniors is you actually kind of have a lot of it already, especially from essays that you already put together. So a few questions, Pam. Somebody said, my problem is the essays. It seems he has to recreate them.
It depends. It depends on what he's applying for. So, oh, there we go. I popped up. Oh, hold a second. So, I think I should share them.
We hear you, Pam, but we don't see you.
Okay. I'm not going. So where the G comes in. So when you in your list, you may have, I don't know, 50 scholarships on your list. Oh, yes, but are you students joining us tonight? So she's on here, but she's a senior. She's actually one couple, and she's now on to the noun for a very large one, which I think she's going to get actually. But of course, I got all my students. So, and so her name is.
Oh, Pam, you're cutting out a lot. I don't know if it's your Wi-Fi. Did your connection change?
Oh, maybe because of present. Can you see me?
We can see you, but it's coming in very like staticky.
Okay. I think it's because it was spotting and it shut. Maybe I should call audio.
I can say it again.
Do you want me to call in on audio?
Oh, okay. Actually, right now it sounds good.
Oh, okay. I won't do anything.
Right.
So what I was saying is, in terms of the essays, I'll just be short. And it depends on what you apply for, which is why build your list and then strategy. You may have 50 scholarships, in your list this month, but you may knock out 12 because 4 are pretty the same. It's the same way with your applications. There may have been 8 applications, and you may think, oh, each one has 3 questions, just 24. 5 of them ask the same thing.
Pam, sorry, actually, it might be better. Do you want to call in? Because it's kind of like every other word's going out.
Okay, that's good. I think I do this.
Yeah.
Call the audio, right?
Yep. Somebody's saying it's super choppy audio. Pam's gonna try and call in or do you want to go out and then come back in?
Yes, my Chrome. I'll just meeting. Second up here. Oh gosh, I lost the. Do you other.
Oh, wait, Pam, talk now.
Yes. Good.
Much better, yeah.
Oh, weird. Okay. So I'll make it quick. Okay. How's that, Deb?
Say again?
I feel like I'm spiraling for a reason.
Yeah, actually, it's still choppy. I thought it would have gotten better.
Okay. So to answer her, it depends on what you're applying, calling into, because that might be me. In terms of having the strategy, waiting soon. Oh, there we go. Let me mute myself here. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Oh, better. Okay. I hear an echo. Mute myself. Okay. I think that's weird because I can hear myself in my. So it just depends on what. On the essay type. So what you can do is cluster them together so that it's a more efficient process. I have like feedback in my head. Let me mute this. Are there any other questions?
Somebody asked, how long did it take you and, well, your son to apply to 167 scholarships? Over what time period did that take?
So 140, and he started August of his year, and we went until April. So whole senior year. We were in it for the long though. He would still be doing it if he did not enough to cover his undergraduate. So.
Got it. So actually, I mean, you don't have to tell us the exact number, but it sounds like, so he won enough to cover his 4 years of undergraduate?
Correct. Uh-huh.
From those 6 scholarships?
Yep. So a lot of the leadership scholarships are very, I mean, we applied for all dollar amounts. So his smallest amount was $2,000. The largest was, oh gosh, a lot. I'm like 40,000. So, you know, it was just applying for all.
Okay. Anybody else? If there's other questions, if you want to message me and I can have Pam answer them and send them back in the email to everybody. Sorry, things got a little choppy at the end. Luckily, you went through, I'd say 90% before we ran into trouble, so that's helpful. I'm just going to give anybody else have any other questions. Again, I'll send a follow-up email, but just wanted to give anybody the chance to ask any questions. No? Okay. Well, thank you, Pam.
Thank you.
Oh, okay. Somebody did ask. They said, how about scholarships that for somebody who may not have a strong leadership?
Well, then there are the essay ones too. So it depends. I use that example because a lot of times families will say, well, my student doesn't have a perfect SAT score, or they're not a student athlete, you know, all the reasons why they can't win. So I just shared that as an example.
Yes, somebody's asking, can we send a copy of all the scholarship websites? Yeah, we'll send them. And I'm just going to emphasize, because I think what you said, Pam, is so true. You could get the list of all the scholarship websites, and that's helpful and it's good information. But at the end of the day, this is going to come down to almost like grit, right? And determination to get through, get through the process and send out as many as you can that are appropriate to the student.
And know what they're looking for. You can do all the work. You know, if I'm going 120 miles down the road, I'm not going to get where I need to be. That's just the reality of it. So and I want to invite, I have like feedback in my head, but I want to invite you, if this is a good fit for you, I want to invite you to work with me. I would love to work with your student. But but I think it's important for families to understand it's not just the tools, it's so much more.
So actually 2 more questions, Pam. One is there hope for somebody who doesn't have leadership and doesn't have a strong ACT, SAT? Oh, we can't hear you at all.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I had to mute my computer. Now I no longer am hearing all
Actually, and this sounds perfect. This sounds very
Oh, this is so perfect. Yeah, this is like
now we're back to normal.
We're moms, we figure it out. So on my podcast, I feature winners, and okay, so I'm gonna give a plug for my podcast, but I want you to listen to last week's episode number 77. So you just go to thescholarshipshark.com / or whatever /77, where I featured I reached out to my students who are past winners and said, hey, update me on what's going on. I want to know what's going on since you won, kind of where are they now? And one of them, Tamara, we were actually in Kenya together. And she has a very incredible story. But she actually won in college. So she goes to my son's school. We have a scholarship club at his school where I work with a small group of students. She's one of the ones I work with. And she continues to win scholarships, and she's in her 3rd year of college. So absolutely you can win as a student. And so you'll hear her story. And when you go through the show notes, if you're familiar with podcasts, you go through the show notes, you can hear their original episode and then definitely listen to where they now, like 2 years, 3 years, 1 year later, like, oh, wow, this is kind of cool. Because I will say this goes back again to working with someone who not only knows what they're doing, but works with students who have repeatedly won. And I talk about this in last Friday's episode. There's some commonalities. My students, I am a proud mama. I'm not gonna lie, I'm a proud shark mom over here. My guppies have done extremely well. They are traveling, they are doing research, academic papers. But see, this is what I tell students all the time. The judges don't know what you're gonna do in the future. And what you have to realize, it's not about you needing money. It's not about you. A lot of times we go into this, and I mean, we collective, well, I need to pay for school. We don't have enough to cover. It's not about you. It's about the mission of the organization. And you got to get real clear on that. And that goes back to mindset. So when you understand that, then you position yourself to fulfill the mission of the organization. And so what each of my students has done, and that's what I'm going to challenge y'all, be action takers and to listen to those past episodes, listen to 77, is that these students have continued to run on. One of my students said, Quan, and his slide is in here, he said, because he traveled to Thailand, he's doing engineering like all over the world at his school at the University of Michigan. He said, and I can do this because of my scholarships. And so they're counting on students. They don't know what you're going to do. All they can do is look at what you've done and base it on that and decide whether or not we're going to award you the money. That's the bottom line. It is not about you and what you need. You know, it's like an employer. An employer doesn't care that you need a job. You know, what are you going to do for me as an employer? You know, how are you going to help me fulfill the mission or to meet a need? And that's where our young people have to have a whole different mindset. And so that beyond, if you get nothing else out of it, you can go through all the work, but if you're doing all the not right things, you're not going to get the results. So start with that with your young folks. It's not about you and what you need. They don't care. They do not care. So you have to start from the mission of the organization and make sure you're meeting it. But definitely check out that episode. I can't say it enough. Like, my students are rocking it. Like, I mean, they are just doing incredible things. So,
okay,
yeah.
and another question. This is a really, curious to hear what you have to say. Somebody is asking, how do you motivate students?
So a couple ways. It depends. So you have to understand what's causing, like, why are they stuck? Is it because they're overwhelmed? Is it because they don't know the next steps? Is it because they don't want it? They have to want it. They've got to want it more than you want it, Mom. So it depends on what is causing them not to move forward and not to take action. And then when you know that, you move forward. So, if a student's stuck because, let's say they don't know the next step, when you break it down, they're able to do the next thing and get the next result. And so that's one way. If they don't want it, I have one student, he's episode number 13, and he's also on 77. Sometimes you got to pull back. See, I've got all these numbers like fresh in my head from my students, right? So his name is Daniel. And he was stuck because he just didn't want to do it. And I told his mom, we're just going to put this on hold because you want it more than he wants it. And when he's ready, the teacher will show up. And he will tell you, you'll hear in episode number 13, I love it. I love it, love it, love it. Because he gives me credit. He's like, just thank you for working with me, for being there. But when he was ready, he moves forward. So he had the information. This is why information is not enough. And so when he had the information, he was ready to move on. So it boils down to why are they stuck first, and then moving through that next step.
Yep, great. Okay, any other questions? Give everybody a few more minutes. But Pam, you're so right about understanding kind of the mission of the organization or whoever is sponsoring the scholarship. And then, I mean, that applies to so many things in life,
Yeah.
It's not about, what you need. It's about the person who you're, or the organization that you're trying to, get the job from or win the money from. It's what do they need, or what are they looking for?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay, I think, we're over an hour. Again, if anybody has any questions, feel free to email me. I will pass them on to Pam. I'm gonna clean up this video a little bit and send it out tomorrow, so everybody has a recording. And hopefully, you learned something tonight about the process about looking for private scholarships. And I will send you the link to Pam's Bootcamp. And again, Pam, we thank you.
Thank you, Deb. I just put it in. I was able to pull it up, which is weird. Excuse me. So, and my voice held out, so this is good. Thank you. Good night.
Okay, good night.
Alrighty.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Pam.